Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paranormal, the new normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, here trying to, you know, make the world seem a little more normal. Does it ever happen? And nope. Never does, but we persist onwards, as always. And, of course, joining me in that quest, I have a guest, as always, my guest tonight, Ramiz King. He is the host of iTimeTalk podcast and a paranormal experiencer, apparently, and we're going to break down all that in a few minutes. But first things first, how you doing tonight, Ramez?
Hi, how are you, Jeremy?
Doing good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be on your show and to discuss some paranormal activities.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, of course. But first, the question I ask everybody to start the show off always is, what made you interested in the paranormal?
Because it's a very taboo topic, and it's something that in my life I have never thought that I would experience, to be honest, firsthand. But when I did, it's something that makes you not be able to talk to people about it because no one will believe you. Paranormal activity is a topic that not a lot of people believe. So to have a medium like such as your show, where you actually are interested in knowing and are truly someone who believes in it, is exciting, and it's actually helpful for me as well to be able to share this experience with someone who actually believes it and would actually consider what I'm saying. So yeah, that's why I was excited to do this.
Well, I'm happy we gave you a platform to do that on, because I mean, on this show, we are we are skeptic believers on this show. I like to say, because I have a tendency to want to believe everything, but I always have to have my science part of my brain kind of analyze things a little
Yeah.
bit. But I mean, I'm prone to believability more than not believing, but that's me.
I honestly wouldn't believe a lot of this stuff myself prior to experiencing it because of reasons why I would just think that I would think very Hollywood when it comes to paranormal stuff and not think of it realistically. So I'm someone who doesn't tend to believe a lot of things. I'm very closed with that, but I have a more open mind. I don't need to necessarily have to believe it in order to understand it or to help someone. But it's something that I haven't spoken to anyone about it because of the fact that not a lot of people believe it, and it's just that being able to experience it firsthand, it really throws you off initially, and it takes a lot of time to come to sense with what you're dealing with. And not a lot of people can do that. They go crazy, or they go wild, or they go skeptical, and end up in a psych ward. But I was lucky and fortunate enough to be able to handle it really well and handle the whole pressure of it and the strength that it comes with it. So yeah.
I am well. I think it's time for the big reveal here, and let's just say that I'm dying to hear it because I'm dying to hear what experiences you've had, especially because I know you're not from the same part of the world as me, and I love hearing about experiences in the other parts of the world because I don't get that often on this show. So
Right.
it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm excited to share with you. I will be as articulate as possible I can with how I'm explaining it to you, but I've had a fair bit of experience with it for the past 2 3 years, and it happened in a very unique way, as in that I never thought that I'd be someone that's fortunate enough, not fortunate but lucky enough to be selected to be able to experience something like this, and for something to come and make contact with me. It was far-fetched for me. I never thought that would ever happen. So when it happened, it was very exciting but yet scary. It took me a lot of time in handling what I was dealing with. It took me a lot of time understanding what I was dealing with, and also just handling it, being able to process it and not tell other people about it, or tell people. It was a big dilemma. I didn't know what to do, so I never really told anyone about it. And I only told initially. I told the hospital initially what I was dealing with, and then they thought that I was going through something, um, mental health reasons, and that's when I took a step back. I'm like, you know what, no one's gonna understand it. And I felt a lot more for people who are going with a lot of dealing with a lot of mental health. And then I started realizing that they could be dealing with real life creatures, and they would be thinking that it's mental health and getting medication for it, but it's actually a supernatural thing. So, do you want me to start telling you the story?
Sure. I mean, I'll say first that I mean there is a large history of a lot of mental health. There's been a lot of mental health cases in the past that have been looked at by paranormal believers and investigators and people saying they hear voices or that they can read people and like back in the day that's the type of stuff we get you're put into an asylum right away
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you were schizophrenic, you were bipolar,
Yeah,
whatever, and they would make up they'd pick a disease and throw it at you and label you with it. But a lot of those instances weren't always true because a lot of times these people had abilities or they were being haunted or maybe even possessed. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of different options. So I like that you went that you started off that way because that's a something that we don't talk about that much in this show and needs to be talked about
yeah.
more.
And I come from MTV background where I've done reality TV shows and I'm in the media industry. So for me to say something like this, it's very uncommon to speak about it. And I know it will make me sound crazy, but then I'm only telling you this because you understand this field and this whole phenomenon. But there is about with extraterrestrial beings, and basically, yeah. So for me to speak about this, it's very uncommon. But then I would have to share my experience that I've had with it, and it took me a lot of time understanding it and uh, gliding and dodging the hospitals and family thinking that I'm going crazy. But then it was something that started in 2019 when I did the TV show in MTV in India, and I never knew where it started from. I used to think that I got this thing, I got possessed or I got attacked by someone from India or somewhere around the world where I visited. I visited some very haunted looking kind of places like old movie sets, which was hotels, Airbnbs. So I had visited a lot of forests and jungles and being up to late nights, late mornings, early mornings to late mornings, being up, going to jungles and going very paranormal places. That's what I used to do growing up. So when I did my show in 2019 on MTV, I basically straight away afterwards, I started experiencing very paranormal activities around my life, as in such as my bed, for instance. It would took, I used to tell my mom about this, and she would never understand. She's like, "You're just maybe delusional." But then my bed would be rocking. You know, when I'm sleeping in it, it would be rocking like someone's jumping on it while I'm sleeping on it. You know, and I never understood why they were doing that. It felt like they're either trying to scare me or they're either trying to basically console me in a way, like a motherly way, that how someone consoles someone and by like rocking them a lullaby or something, you know? It was something like that. You know, now that I think of it, I consider it to be like that now when I'm more comfortable with the idea. I'm like, maybe it's because it's not as negative as you think. It's not as negative as you think. It's more so that reasons could be that because my relationship with the whole paranormal activity thing has now become very normal and friendly, and someone who has dealt with it and has tackled it and has been left alone. So I've basically been left alone by the paranormal entities because of the reasons why how I am as a human being. I was more very loving, caring, and friendly, but very open minded, and not scared at all. I was shocked that I wasn't scared. I recently had a dream when I was traveling. I was sleeping in my room, and on my hallway of my door of my room, there was this dark entity, like a dark, just dark entity, you know, standing there and hovering over me. And instead of that thing attacking me, I actually jumped and approached it in my dream. And that thing ran away from me and started running away, fleeing from me in bolt speed. And that just put things in perception for me that I'm someone who's not as scared when it comes to paranormal activities and paranormal entities. I'm not someone who gets scared very easily. It takes a lot to scare me now after dealing with something like this.
Well, let me ask you this: Because I mean, I hear you say dark entity, and my mind shoots right to shadow people, shadow person. I mean, that's what my mind goes to is a shadow person. I mean, do you think that's what it was, or I mean, do you think it was something else?
It was, it just in a dream, it presents itself to be in a dark entity kind of way. It presents itself to be darker, as in a way. But then, when you actually speak to something, according to Islam, right, or in Christianity, I'm not sure, but then in Islam, in the book, it says that that every human has a Qareen assigned to them. A Qareen is a entity, like a genie entity kind of a thing, which is assigned to whisper temptations to you and mislead you, or either it could become very good and lead you to good pathways according to your sins and according to your personality and your righteousness. Basically, you have everyone, a human has one attached to them, and a lot of people maybe are having malfunctions with the Kareen, because it takes a lot for your Kareen to approach you and talk to you. You have to be a very uncommon person or very different for it to grab its attention in order for it to make contact with you. So with my situation, my one, I got attacked by it in a way that it was talking, talking from left, right, back, center. It was just the voice was coming around from everywhere, and I thought that I was going crazy. But the voice was so real, and it was coming from out of my brain, out of my body, from different directions. It was just talks, and it was basically telling me not to become famous for some reason, because it's harmful for me and for him. And I never understood that at that time, but now I understand it now why what it meant. So I thought that maybe it's something to do with maybe Illuminati really exists, because as soon as they did a TV show, that's when I got attacked by this thing. And also there's an Ariana Grande interview, which is very popular, but it was written that she said that she was having issues with entities or deities jumping on her bed as well, and shadows following her. This is that, um, just before on a peak of a career. So I started thinking that maybe, yeah, the industry has sent something over against me. Maybe they have. I didn't understand. I still don't know until today what it was and where it's from. But I find answers in the books, religious books that there is by the Lord, and I find answers by speaking to them. And initially, my relationship was very negative with that entity, because of the reasons why is that it didn't want me to become famous, so it was really up stopping me from reaching my dreams, my goals. I was doing a show like The Bachelor at a flight, and it drove me crazy, insane. But before me catching the flight, that I couldn't catch the flight, I froze and I didn't know what to do. It was annoying me, and I thought I was going through mental health issues. So I froze and I agreed to go to the hospital, and I missed my flight, and I missed the show. Because I thought I was having mental health issues, because I've never heard thoughts in my brain. I used to be someone who talks and talks and talks, talks, but never had thoughts. I wouldn't even think. My thinking would be silent, and understanding is silent. So thoughts are just you talking to yourself, which I never did in my entire life. So when I started getting thoughts in my brain, I was like, this is uncommon and this is something that's very unusual. And I thought I'm going crazy. Maybe I've got schizophrenia or something, and I want to get treated for it. So I went to the hospitals and I went to doctors for help and took refuge in that. And that didn't help me at all, because this entity became aggressive, 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 and also became very sly. It knew that I thought I was crazy, so it only do it in times that it would fit the scenario that I'm going crazy, and then it's not real. Until I caught on to it, I caught on to it with my bed situation, how it was jumping on my bed and consoling me in a way that it started being very loving towards me, because I was having a good time with it. There's times that I was laughing and talking to it, because of reasons why, how its personality was, and it told me that it took interest in me and opened up towards me because of how uncommon I was, and I was very different. And I was also in the media field, and that's why it took an interest in speaking to me and communicating with me and breaking the rules. And the fact that I don't know what it was. I was protected from a young age because I never had thoughts in my brain. A lot of people have thoughts, but they think to themselves, they say, Jeremy, today you should go and read a book. I never did that. I never said, Ramez, go read a book or go eat something. I would only understand in silence, and I would only think in silence where there's no words in my brain. So the Islamic Islamic theory, waswasa, which means temptations, giving temptations to you by these angels or demonic figures, would have never worked on me because I never used to think in that sense, you know? And I never had that happen to me as well. I never had those temptations or those voices sent to my head. So as soon as it happened, I picked up on it really quickly and I said, I'm going crazy or this is real. And it took me 3 years dealing with it to understand that it was very real, and it's something that I'm dealing with every day. And it also introduced me to something called the Gog and Magog, which is an alien form, which is just two. It's like a two eyes, but it builds a bubble around you. It builds a whole bubble around you of material that's made out of, and it basically, you can just see the two eyes. That's it. And it's very indestructible. It regenerates from every time it even you try to kill it or something. It regenerates, and it's something that makes a mask around you and a bubble around you. And I was dealing with that for a while, as well, through meeting it through my assigned demonic figure, which I think is an angel or is a demon. I'm not sure, to be honest. Um, Meeting this entity was very scary because it was telepathic. It would understand everything telepathically in my silence. If I thought something or understood something, it would understand it. And it really attacked me in a time where I was at home. I moved into a new house. I was home alone, and it was nights and nights and nights of me just experiencing stuff with them. And they would basically just make contact with me and try to annoy me in sense of putting this mask around me. And I used to be like, what is this thing I can only see, I could only experience it and see it, and no one else could. I never understood why and how no one else could see it. But then that was very challenging for me as well. Dealing with that and getting the mask out of me was very tough. But then it was then that I realized that maybe the entity that's talking to me and made contact with me and said it likes me, took an interest in me. It was scaring me first. It scared the living shit out of me. But then when it started liking me, it started talking nicely and started being more friendly towards me. And I found a friend in them, and I also was talking to them daily, and they would talk from outside my window. And one thing I don't understand, and I want to ask you what you think. I don't know how I can experience this, but no one else can see it or experience it. Did I have a filter, or what is it that makes only one person experience it and not other people?
Well, I mean, it's just the ability of the entity usually is what will do that. I mean, usually, I mean, whether it's an angel, a demon, or a theory I just came up with that might be what you're experiencing, maybe even an extraterrestrial. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
all these different entities, creatures, cryptids, whatever you want to call them, they all have, I mean, some kind of abilities where they can make themselves only be seen by the person they want to show themselves to.
Yeah.
Not every, I mean, there are people that say they can see angels walking down the street with them, but no one else will ever see it. It's because
Right.
that person was supposed to see it, nobody else was.
Exactly, yeah. So it's very confusing at times, where I can see something and other people can't. I've seen a spaceship once at 2014, and then in 2022, where it got really intense, where it made contact with me. I got into a car accident in Turkey, and as soon as I got in the car accident, it was 5 a.m. The roads were empty. I got out of the car. I had a concussion because I hit my head on the side of the car, and I saw something in the sky. Like it was like a transparent spaceship, just landing. And then I was like, what the hell is that? And then I was okay with it, but then that's what happened is, like, slowly afterwards, leading the days leading to it, before or after that, I mean, days afterwards, I dealt with the extraterrestrial being where it was just two eyes, and it makes mask around you, it's like a debris of mask, around you, like a bubble, and you can only see its two eyes, and it's telepathic. and it was, you know what it was doing? It was actually speaking about things such as not speaking, sorry. It was I was I'll be thinking according to it, and I thought it was giving me powers and it's giving me abilities to become better, to get more abilities and changing my looks and being able to change my chemistry to making me a different being. And that's what I thought. I had a delusion, or I had a theory with it, because the other entity that I could talk to would tell me that, oh, maybe that's what you should do, get powers from it and do such something like that. And it took me very quickly to find out that the other voice that I was hearing, the entity, was not me, because the personality was so distinctive and it was so intelligent that it couldn't have been me or my subconscious mind or my conscious mind talking to me like that. And it was coming out of my body for me, and it would come inside my body, come out of my body. I realized that the Quran explains it really well what it was. It was a Kareen. It was called Kareen, and it's like an angelic, demonic figure, which is, and it called itself the Shaitan as well. It called itself a Shaitan, which means devil, which came to me because of my extraordinary experiences that I did on television. And it didn't want me to become famous because of the reasons why. When people watch me on the show, a lot of the comments comes across that to they comment on the show on YouTube or in any medium, that I'm a pure soul and that I teach them to be more righteous and be bold in attitude, but also to be very truthful and pure. So uh, I guess that image of the effect that I have on people in India, especially where it's such a big population of country and had so many religions, is to be a very distinctive, truthful person, and that could actually guide a lot of people towards the truth, compared to them being misled towards the lies, that they worship certain things like a cow, or there's so many different religions in India that you get a head spin when you sit there and think about it all. So I understood why the entity didn't want me to become famous, because of the reasons why, is that I had an effect on people on the shows that I had done. And it went above and beyond, I think, behind the scenes and in front of me, to stop me from reaching my goals and reaching my dreams. And it's affected me a lot in that sense. But basically, I would spend time with them talking to it, and they were very normal. They're just like us, and they could. And one thing else I want to tell you is that they can haunt you if they want to, but I have an ability, and I think I want to express this to you guys as well. For anyone who's dealing with something like this, that as humans, we are an architect in their dimension, as in whatever we want to show, whatever we think we want to perceive, we can think it and it will appear in front of them in their dimension. So if I would think of a nun while I was sitting there, I would think of something, that entity would see it, would see exactly what I'm showing him. If I wanted to build something, show something to him, like an airplane or a house, the entity would say, and I tested it, I would show it something that's blue, and I'm like, what color is it? Is it red? And it'd be like, no, no, it's blue. And it would actually see it physically and experience what I'm showing it, And I don't know if that's me, that's a gift that I have from the Lord, or if it's every human being. But if anyone who's dealing with something like this and is watching or will ever watch this, they need to know that as humans, we are an architect in the dimension. And a movie like this, which is similar to what I'm saying, is very truthful. I watched it recently and I realized that, holy shit, this is what I'm going through. It's called Insidious: The Red Door. The movie Insidious: The Red Door. It talks about a different dimension, and I've experienced this different dimension in terms of that. I've had dreams, sexual dreams, and normal dreams of being in a different dimension where I can fly and I can be actively dreaming, and I could be. It's like lucid dreaming, but I'm actively dreaming, but I'm flying, and I'm also actively thinking and watching everything, but something is occurring to me then, while I'm doing that. So it's a different dimension in your dream. It's people call it the REM pattern, or the REM cycle of sleeping and lucid dreaming. But I find that more to be a more intense topic. The entity that I was dealing with had an ability to take me to a different dimension in my dreams, and either have a sexual interaction with me or have scary interaction with me and to try to scare me with demonic faces and dark entities, which wasn't working on me because I wasn't getting scared. I wasn't getting scared from a lot of things that it was showing me in my dreams and in real life. In real life, it showed me while I'm driving in the car, from my rear mirror, it would show me as a dark entity sitting behind me, which like just fully dark with eyes. Only you can only see eyes, and it's just a full dark entity. Like the photo, like that's a hand, but then like a dark cellular, Um, basically, yeah, so I would be driving and I would see the thingy and it shocked me first few times, but then I would then be normal with it. And when I realized that I wasn't getting scared, it changed its approach. It started giving me sexual dreams with it, and that was freaky. That freaked me out a little bit, because I didn't want to be having sex with an entity that's not human, or it's extraterrestrial or whatever it is.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I could turn down that experience. That'd be like a once in a lifetime thing. Like you have to experience it. Like, I mean,
That's
personally,
true. It was and you know what, it was exciting in sense, and it was like very normal, but it was just with someone that's not a human. And it was just, and I couldn't see the figure of the face properly, but it would show itself as a darker entity. It's like it makes you feel like it's not allowed to show itself, even though if it wants to. It's not allowed to show itself. It has a boundary which is locked to show itself, and I feel like they're not scary looking, and they're not actually ugly or scary looking demonic and stuff. They actually are just not allowed to show themselves to you because and they tend to show themselves scary because they're intimidated by us. Because my one is actually super scared of me because I could show it some scary stuff, and I would show it some extra crazy stuff, like like vortexes spinning it around, planes just randomly coming, or like a bear attacking it suddenly, or a scary nun. I watch Hollywood, so a scary nun figure from the movie Nun would just appear in front of the entity and would scream and shout. And I realized that it's more scared than I am, from Hollywood and from all the thing. And it was a very innocent being. It was just that it's designed with a purpose to misguide you or guide you, or to be extraterrestrial, or to be in a different dimension. So dimensions are really important. We experience, when we're dreaming, we go to a different dimension, and all these beings are in different dimensions. So we as humans, I feel like I am an architect in that dimension. I can build whatever I want, whatever I want to show. They can experience it, and we are all living in different dimensions, and there's different dimensional beings that exist in the world, that has made contact in the past with people, and are actively making contact with people in the future as well. I suppose there will be, depending on who you are as a person, and if they find an interest in you, or if you have an impact in the world or contribute something to society. But anyways, what is your experience with paranormal activities? Like, have you had an experience with it?
see, I am more of the line of people who want to experience but don't really get to.
Yeah.
I've had minor experiences, nothing major, and I mean, I'm a believer because of people like you who have told me their experiences with it and all the other experiences I've heard in my life over many different media forms. But
Yep.
I but I will say you are 100% right. It is dimensions. I mean, I've had a astral projectionist slash lucid dreamer on the show,
Yep.
and he said there's 17 different dimensions he's been to in his dreams, and
Yep.
they all have different resonance. So it's very possible that I mean, when we sleep, we do go to another dimension, and we can see things that we know. That may be what nightmares really are. Maybe they're just us going to another dimension and seeing nightmarish things, or
Yep.
maybe that's what good dreams are. Or maybe that's where the whole idea of the fae and fairies came from, was from a good dimension with good creatures, because they're not all bad, from what I'm told. There's
Yep.
dimensions that have really good creatures as well. So I am a huge believer in that we live in a basically a multi-dimensional plane, if not a multiverse altogether, and that from that we basically are just explorers here. We don't know what we're doing.
You're right, 100%. But one thing is that the most creepiest one that I found and scariest and one that's very impactful is the extraterrestrial being, which looks like two eyes. I feel like that's called Gog and Magog in Islamic mythology, and in the Quran it speaks about it. I'm not sure the Bible speaks about it, but the Quran really speaks about few creatures that are to come or has came. In the past, I used to think that it was a past tense thing when they used to talk about it, but then when I experienced it, I realized it was a future tense thing. It hadn't happened yet, and the book had spoken about it 14,000 years ago. So that creature is telepathic, but it builds a bubble around you, and it's like a dark bubble, and it's just that it it came with the idea that it's gonna give me abilities to make me a bit more superheroic, but it attached itself to me telepathically and also physically in front of my eyes. When I closed my eyes, I could see its eyes instead of the darkness, you know? And it would build a bubble around me. And that entity was really hard, and it's still hard to get him to go away and leave me alone, you know? And it would try to scare you. It try to scare me a little bit, but it can't scare me. So what it does is it annoys me, and it has tortured me in a way that it would when I closed my eyes, I could see its eyes there, and I'm scared that this creature that I'm dealing with is actually something that's gonna have a viral outburst and get everyone. If everyone goes through what I'm going through with it, a lot of humans would die and they would not be able to handle it properly, you know? And it will be a massive invasion if it gets out. But then it's only one entity. It's not many, you know? It's not like it has a whole race with it, but it's only one or two entities, I think, that's associating itself with me, and it's bothering me now as well, till today. And you can't see it physically from the outwards, but then when you close your eyes, you can see its eyes, and you could see it moving around. When you just close your eyes briefly, like halfway, I could see it, and it builds a mask around you, and it's like orbs, you know, like a orbs kind of a wise thing. Um, and it's something that lurks in the dark always. Everyone, I think if there's more of them, they lurk in the dark always, as in like they would always be around you, but unless they make themselves known, you won't be able to see them. So there are entities and beings and figures that are in the dark. When you think you're alone, but you're not actually alone. That's so true. You're not actually alone. There are other things. Right now, when you're sitting there, there's another being with you right now, present. But that being has a free will choice to make it known to you or not that it exists or not. You know, and some people get a chance that they do that, you know? And with me, I did a mistake by believing it that it can give me superpowers. And it sounds so delusional. I sound crazy when I think of it right now. I feel like I sound crazy, but then it's true. It's actually happening, and these entities exist. And I'm someone who's attracting these stuff to myself randomly. And I live and I'm in a field where I can't speak about this in media, mainstream media, because they'll sound crazy. Like they're like, go take your pills. Um, and I've realized that what is psychosis and what is schizophrenia. I've researched and I've experienced it with hallucinations with something like a hallucinogenic drug. I've experienced what a hallucination is and what a real experience is as well. And I can intelligently put it forward that what I'm going through is something that knows that I can't tell people about it. That's why it's preying on me. And I just get worried that I hope it doesn't have an outburst or invasion happen if they find more people from the race and they invade us as human beings. What would we do then? You know. But
Well,
then
it's funny because I had to look up the creature you're talking about because I wanted to know how to spell it, one, and
Mhm.
two, I was kind of curious. So I heard the name, but I never actually looked into it. And I mean, Gog Magog, which
Yeah.
is from every Bible ever, every religious text ever, there's a and a Magog.
Okay.
Gog in the Christian Bible, I know that Gog means land and Magog means people,
Hmm.
and I don't know, they worked into like the Abrahamic stories and whatnot. But as far as my memory could tell me from my days as a Christian, but basically, I mean, but in Islam, the Jews Majuj, like they consider them something completely different. Like
Yeah.
it's interesting. I mean, and there's a lot of articles online about whether these are extraterrestrials.
I felt like initially that when I was reading it, I thought it's gonna be like a entity, like a human race kind of a being or race that's gonna come and invade us. Like maybe I thought it was Great Wall of China because it said it built a wall between us. This is that in the Quran, but then it said in the Quran it was gonna build a wall between us, but it never did. It said I'm gonna believe what the Lord has established for me instead. So then I thought that this being was that because of the way that it looks like. It's two eyes, and it's a circle, like a dark circle, like a white circle with a dark dot in it, or like a dark circle with a white dot in it, and they in the center of the eyes area, when you close your eyes, you could see it basically being there, but it builds a heavy kind of a mask and bubble around you where you can feel it in a in your dimension, not physically, but then you can feel it in your mental dimension and in your senses dimension. You can sense it being there. So they are telepathic. I know that for a fact. They're telepathic because of how they interact with me, and how they interact with me is they would move my bed, and they would sit on it, or they would move on it, but they don't have a body to sit and move, but they'll mimic human beings, how they are in their embodiments is. And they basically are very intelligent, but I don't know what it wants from me because he doesn't speak in like the other entity, Karin, or demonic angelic entity that's assigned to you from birth. That entity speaks to you and communicates with you, and you can actually talk to it and know what its purpose is and what it wants. But this one you can't understand, and it just hovers around, and you can see it in the sky, you can see it in the wall, you can see it everywhere. Once it opens its ways to you, you could actually see it in the sky. The two eyes are hovering in the sky, but it's actually doing that with the ability of building sort of a facade, like a bubble around everyone, around the earth, around objects, around humans, where they can hover through the bubbles. And that's how it hovers in the sky and hovers in front of my eyes and in my home. And it would give you false promises initially that it would give me powers, or it was my delusions as well, but it was also it's what it was showing me, visualizing me, showing me. And there's a photo, there's a photo, Hollywood Tonight, or Michael Jackson's last album, Hollywood Tonight, or and there's like a photo. I don't know if you can pull it up, pull up Hollywood Tonight on YouTube, which is a photo which looks animated with Michael Jackson there. There's a full photo to that. There's like a full photo to that's a half photo, but there's a full photo to that. If you Google it, or I'll send it to you afterwards. There's a full photo to that, and in that photo, these very weird and bizarre objects and entities, and colors and objects, basically in that photo. In the full one, when you watch it, it's like a huge. What's the word for it? It's a huge collage of photographs of related to Michael's life, and also things that I was dealing with, because there's entities that I was dealing with. Uh, they were kind of in the photos there, uh, shown, and they were using the photos as a way to tell me that whatever I see in the photos, I can achieve in my physical body and in my spiritual world, through the screen, like objects. Because if I said, make me into a superhero, I would suddenly feel my hands becoming so heavy, like steel. It's made out of steel. Or I would feel sensations of hotness, or coldness, or then very motivated feelings of something, or I'd feel an increase in my size or decrease my muscle. I would find um some sort of results from what they were doing and showing me, and that's what made me started believing and becoming delusional towards what it was doing, until the point that it started just hovering over me and just harboring me and attaching itself to me more aggressively. So that photo, if you see, it has a lot of objects and very out of the world extraterrestrial beings attached to it, and it just makes you think that the artist, I think it was James Chris, Christoph. Something is I forgot his name, but I'll show you the photo. His name is I forgot his name, but he's the one who actually made the photo. Okay, yeah, this is how the photo looks like. It's like that.
Yeah, you really can't. Yeah, you really can't see it like that. I mean,
Yeah,
um,
but then
yeah,
this photo has like some parts in bubbles. It has some bits and pieces of beings and objects which looks very bizarre, but with what I've experienced, they are very much similar to what I'm dealing with, in terms of how it looks like and how its embodiment is made. And basically, yeah, so it just makes it weird that how an artist could actually paint something like that close to it or mimic it. And I'm dealing with something like that in real life now.
it's.
Overall,
I mean,
yeah,
if you ask me, it just proves you're not the only person who's dealt with it.
yeah,
It proves that
exactly.
other people know it exists.
Yeah, that's true. And basically, I feel like it's existed for a very long time, and it exists in the dark with us. It's lived among us for a long time, but it chooses to make itself appear, to be seen or not seen, or to be experienced or not experienced, based on who you are as a person. It only showed itself to me after I was dealing with the Karain, the assigned angel to me, or demonic angel to me that was assigned to me, the devil. When I dealt with that, then it only made itself appeared itself in front of my eyes, and it showed itself to me basically afterwards. And I'm still dealing with that issue because I can still see it when I close my eyes, and it's still like harboring my body, and it's also around me in a circle, in a bubble around me, created itself. And it worries me that it's gonna go attacking other people, but then it can't do much but manipulate your visions and show you the wrong thing, and show you itself briefly in a few seconds while you're driving in the back of you, in the corner of your eyes. You can see it in the corner of your eyes, but you can't see it when you fully focus. So if I'm looking at you right now, but I can see it in the corner of my eyes right now, walking around or moving around, and it's how its body is. It's two little eyes, and it hovers around, jumps around, and moves around, and it also embodies weight, real life weight, when it jumps on your bed or sits on your bed or moves around next to you, and you can sense that it has a weight to it, but it's actually so small. It doesn't. I don't know how it does that, but it it represents, or it shows itself to be a very heavy entity sometimes, but yet it looks like a very hollow and lightweighted, um, two eyes kind of a being. So now I look for answers in books and in history. So I only found close to Gog and Magog thingy, close to it, to be related to it, or hadiths and stuff from the prophets saying that the one eye thing is going to come happen, like the Antichrist, maybe this is that. I'm like, maybe it's a closer uh, link to the Antichrist thingy because it's two eyes, moving around. But I don't know what it is, but it's extraterrestrial for sure. And what I'm dealing with is that I wanted to leave me alone, but it's not doing that. Like the other entity. The other entity has chosen to leave me alone itself based on of love and friendship ways with me. It doesn't want to drive me crazy and wants to leave me alone, and wouldn't want to speak to me anymore, and has left me alone. It said, I've left you alone because you are a good friend and I like you. And I don't hear it at all anymore. If it was psychosis or schizophrenia, I'd still be dealing with it, but it's not. I don't hear it at all, and it's completely gone. But this other entity I'm dealing with is still there, and it's tough because I feel like this is just a start. I'm dealing with it at the beginning, and soon enough the world's gonna find out as well. And I want the world to know in the future that I was dealing with it solo. I tried as much as I could to contain it, but I couldn't. I couldn't in the future. In that sense, if that happens hypothetically, I wouldn't be able to contain it to stay only with me, but it would come out and attack other people too. But its attacks are just manipulation of thoughts and scene, and just of scenes, and also just annoyingness of extra senses around your face that you feel like movements are being made, and extra weight's been added, and you could see just weird debris kind of a thing around your eyes, and orbs and stuff that is related to it. But yeah, that's that. It's something that's very uncommon and extraterrestrial, but it exists. And I grew up watching Doctor Who, so I knew how to deal with something like this, and I would be able to be open-minded in dealing with it. I didn't get scared straight away. When I was
Yeah,
driving and it showed me itself in a dark figure in the back, I got freaked out, but then I still didn't get shocked. I have it in me that I'm not getting scared, and I find that to be my superpower. Or maybe I'm more darker person than I thought, because I'm not getting scared, and these entities are not able to scare me in dreams or in physical life. But then I'm so scared, because if it happens to my little sister, or happens to your little sister, or to your brother, or to you, it would be very scary for you. And they have potential to scare you to an extreme point where you can do something bad and take your life, or do something extra crazy. So that worries me, and I'm trying to contain it and get rid of it. But I don't know what I can do to stop it from reaching other people. And I don't know how long it's gonna do this with me. But I feel like everything has a time, because I used to think that it would never end with the other entity who would talk and talk and talk for nights, in early hours in the morning, would talk bullshit. And I used to feel like, when is this gonna finish? Is it ever gonna end? Am I ever gonna get out of this cycle? I'm going crazy. And that ended smoothly, and it ended on a good note, basically between us. We're not enemies, or it has left me alone, chosen to free will leave me alone. I'm waiting for the same scenario to happen with this entity, but it looks tougher, and it's taking its longer time, and it's just very stagnant how I'm dealing with it. And it's boring
of
as well.
course.
It doesn't talk to you physically. It's telepathic, but I'm not understanding it, but it can understand me.
Makes up. I mean, it all makes sense. And I gotta ask, as a Whovian, I have to ask, who's your favorite Doctor? It's
Oh, okay. Peter Capaldi. I love how he is as a doctor. Just Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi is my favorite doctors, I would say. So far, I love Matt Smith's the whole seasons, whatever happens in there
yep.
that time, like the Weeping Angels to
Hmm.
Peter Capaldi's with chemistry with Clara. I really loved, and it made me emotional when Clara dies, and how he is in that episode Hellbent, where he tries to retrieve her, but then she still goes back and dies, and he forgets her. So like Clara's chemistry with the Doctor, I really loved. And overall, the episodes are the best in season 9, season 8, and season 6 and 7. And also, David Tennant is one of my favorite doctors as well. I think I love all of them. I'm very unbiased. I love every
Ah,
doctor. But I don't like the new one. I don't like the new one, the newest one. On I'm not being racist or anything, but he's just not giving me the vibe yet. I think I have to watch it again on Disney just to feel the feel. But he's not
yeah.
giving me the vibe so far. But what's your favorite?
Well, I was gonna say, so you're a new Doctor Who fan. I'm a classic Doctor Who fan.
Classic. Okay, right.
I like the original first Doctor, the original third Doctor, and the fourth one. What's his name? John Pertwee, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, or Sean Pertwee, maybe, or I don't know.
I
His
need to start watching the older ones, because I don't like the new season, so I've run out of ideas what to watch now. So I do want to watch the older seasons and get a feel of that as well, just like how you have. But I've only watched post 2005 series.
Yeah, J- John Pertwee was the first one I ever saw. Actually, no. I'm sorry. John Pertwee's the third Doctor. He's definitely the best in my opinion. He had like one of the longest runs in the old series, and I freaking love him. I mean, the first Doctor ever was freaking incredible. I
Yeah.
don't Hartnell. I want to say William Hartnell, but I could be wrong.
Yep.
He was really good too. A lot of his episodes are black and white. That's how old they are, and like they're just damn, they're still good. They're still entertaining and good
Yeah.
storylines. So
I could
it's
imagine.
their it's their personality. The Doctor's personality is what
Yeah.
makes it.
As an artist, my goal is to play the Doctor one day, and it would be just amazing just to be out of the world and be able to play that character, which is very sometimes arrogant but very clever. And it's a beautiful show. Honestly, I love it. I love the fact that he finds solution everywhere. It leaves a negative impact on me as well, because he finds solution every time to what he's dealing with. But sometimes when I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with these extraterrestrial beings, is that I'm not finding a solution. That puts me off, and I'm like, why is it not like a Doctor Who show where I find an answer by the end of the episode to what I'm dealing with and find a clever way to outbeat it or get it away from me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and well, I see. That's why I like the older Doctors better because back then they did a lot of time travel episodes where they went back in time to like
Right.
Earth, but like different time periods. And it if you're a history buff or a history fan, then it gets really interesting when like it shows how they created a lot of moments in history they shouldn't have, and that's why
Yeah.
eventually they had to. That's why eventually in the show they stopped doing it because an order came down from the Council of the species Doctor Who is again that like basically like he can't go back in time anymore because it's destroying
Yeah.
things and changing the
Yeah.
multiverse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I figured that's why I like the old ones because the old ones are cool. Like they really interfere with
I love the
everything
whole
and
when they go in metal with the history. I love those episodes. You know,
yeah.
there's a few of them in the new seasons as well where it has happened. You know, like the Rosa Park episode in season 13 and season 12, 13. I'm not sure, but then yeah. So it's a few episodes like that. So I think I would find interesting watching the old ones as well. Now I'll definitely check it
Uh,
out.
I mean, if you they're all on BritBox. That's the great thing is because
Bird Box.
when I first got into this, there was no place to really a lot of this a lot of the old episodes were lost due to a factory
Yeah.
fire back in the 80s and like so it was hard to like I would get the ones on DVD from Netflix. Yeah, DVD from Netflix. That's how long
Yeah.
ago this was. But like I would try to get what I could from them and then like eventually when BritBox came out in like 2016, 2017, and they had all the old episodes, I was
Oh
like the
wow.
happy. It was like a kid on Christmas. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
subscription worth paying for because you get to watch
Exactly. I would
so
love
many
to. Yeah.
hours.
Just recently when I
Like
was
it's
dealing with all this stuff, I started rewatching the seasons from 2005 to 2000 2018, 19. I rewatched the whole season because I was dealing with what I was doing. It was so stagnant. This extraterrestrial thing would not be doing anything extra, but just hovering around my face and removing stuff from my face. It was trying to give me an idea that it's going to change my looks, you know, according to the other entity. Which I was like, why? It's so stupid. Why would you do that? You know, because it felt the extraterrestrial being felt the need to express its powers to me because made it look like it didn't have any powers because I would also show stuff to them and the extraterrestrial being can see it as well. It's in a dimension that can see what I as an architect can show. As an architect, I just think of something. Right now, I just think of a train just going by and hitting it, you know? It would physically see the train hitting it. And if I want to show it, like if I want to see the nun from the movie Nun, right now, if I think it, they would actually experience it firsthand, and I could actually script stuff in my silence, being silently sitting there, not thinking anything, and in my silence, in my understanding, I could script something, and it will play out for them naturally and very realistically. So they have experienced that, and I've heard them experiencing it, and I've tested them about it a few times as well. Like how they would get scared, and the hovering thing would just jump out of the frame if I showed something scary. Basically, I've done that experiments with it, and that entity feels the need to show its powers to me, but its powers are very stagnant and slow compared to what I show and do. But I wanted to have physical powers on my body and my chemistry and stuff, but it doesn't have that. And I was curious to see if it had any powers that would be beneficial to mankind and myself. But I still haven't figured that out yet, you know, because it's so quiet and it's not like the other entity that talks. The other entity has powers to basically come at you from four directions and also basically manipulate thoughts to you and speak from inside of you and outside of you, and that's the abilities that it had, and it could fly and it could do all that things. Those are the abilities that I figured out. But with this other one, I still haven't figured out a lot of its abilities, and I'm trying to, but it's a bit of a struggle. So I'm trying to see how it goes. And as someone who I still feel crazy telling you all this stuff, but I'm literally dealing with this realistically. Swear to God, and it's beyond paranormal. It's extraterrestrial, and it's something that I hope that doesn't come out and invades the world. If it does, they watch this video to say that I did try to warn the world. But I can't tell everyone about this because not a lot of people will understand it. And I had to think a billion times before doing this interview with you because I didn't know how to articulate it or how to put it out how it is. I couldn't comprehend. I can comprehend it, but I can't express it or put it into words what it is and how it's like and what its abilities are and how I experience it. It's very out of the world to experience it first of all, but it's very out of the world when it comes to explaining it to someone else. So it's
Yeah,
very hard. You
it
can't
makes
explain.
sense, and I mean, I get that. I 100% get that. I'm sure a lot of the listeners will as well. And I hope this does possibly make people pay more attention and maybe realize they might be experiencing the same thing, but they don't realize it.
Yep.
And
Hope
that's my
hope
hope at
it's only
least.
one being, not many. I hope it's not like many more of them. It's just one or two of them. If it's more of them, then it's always lurking in the dark and it's there with everyone. And it just well, it's up to itself to show itself or not. But yeah, so I just hope there's less of them, and if there is more of them out there, then they could ever decide to invade us. They could do that, but then there's not much we can do to stop it. To be honest, at the moment, but they're not as dangerous as you think. But there is times where it's felt like it's eating my heart. It's giving me pain in my heart so badly, and I wouldn't. This is at the beginning when I didn't know what I was dealing with. I thought that I was dealing with a mental illness, but then I started feeling the physical pain to it, and the other entity was screaming, saying, "Stop, stop, stop!" But I couldn't see what he was talking about because the second one hadn't appeared to me yet. So it would eat my heart. It felt like something was eating your heart. And I was internally bleeding. I felt like that, and I felt physical pain from it for hours and hours and hours. And then it suddenly it stopped when I was trying to put. I put my titanium, like my metal credit card in front of my heart, and I started imagining my heart becoming metal. And as I was imagining it, and and the metal was representing that the fact that I want to securify my heart. I started imagining it, and it happened, and it stopped biting on it, and I felt the pain stopped. So I've had painful experience with it. It was very painful, but I felt like it could be dangerous to people and mankind, but it's choosing to be very stagnant at the moment and quiet. But I don't know how to explain it. You haven't dealt with it. I haven't. I've dealt with it, but I don't know what it is. It doesn't talk, so it doesn't tell me what it is. So it's a very confusing process. But I feel like in the future, it has a ability to scare people if it wants to, but you have to not be a scared person. You have to be open minded about it and watch shows like Doctor Who and shows that could actually open your mind to other beings, so you don't get so scared and you deal with it properly. And I never try to kill it at the beginning or this is that, but when I did try to kill it, I didn't have any resources or abilities to be able to kill it. But
Yeah,
it's very tough, but then it also it just I can control it basically sometimes telepathically in moving around and doing stuff for me, but that's about it. It's a telepathic being, and it's something that science hasn't discovered yet, other people haven't, and I don't know why I'm experiencing this stuff. So i I hope, I don't know, in the future you will see me and see what kind of human being I am, then you'll understand why I'm experiencing this stuff. Because right now I don't know, but I don't know what my future holds. I don't know what if I'm going to do something big in the future, or I'm someone who is symbolically assigned to a significant destiny in the future. That's why I'm dealing with this kind of stuff. But I guess we'll find out in the future to see where I am at and what I'm
well,
doing.
yep, we'll have to wait and see, I guess. But it's a waiting game. That's all it is at this point. But I look forward to seeing what happens in the future with it. And if you're getting more developments, you're always welcome back, of course.
Yep.
And why don't you tell people a little bit about your podcast and where they could find it and where they could find you?
Yep. My podcast is still in development at the moment. It's basically a podcast to talk with interesting people, but have a time factor to it where basically you have to answer truthfully whatever comes in your mind first. So when you ask a question, whatever pops up in your mind first, you have to express that out because you have a timer. And it's a non-filtered kind of show where you are more truthful and you don't think about or and give a concise answer. You just say what comes in your mind first. So it's not a filtered or a show where celebrities sit there and think thoroughly with the questions that they give answers to. It's not a show like that. It's more so to get you instantly from whatever you're thinking is to express that and to show
Oh,
your reality and your truth to who you are and what you're feeling, what you're thinking at that moment.
that sounds interesting, actually.
Thank you.
That sounds fun. That sounds fun. I'd definitely be down to be a
Yeah,
guest
I'd
on
love
that one.
beyond that, you know.
That does
But
sound
yeah,
fun. That sounds fun as hell. But yeah, where can they find you if they want to keep an eye out for it?
they can follow me on Instagram on I am Ramiz. It's IAMRAMI triple Z on Instagram and on all social media. That's my username. They can find me on that and they can connect with me. Basically, yeah. So I'm someone who believes in contributing to society greatly in terms of educational work through entertaining videos, by educating people through entertaining videos and entertainment shows, and also to use the media as a field, as a medium to educate people and help them learn the good and bad experiences of other people. Because I read a quote one day, it said, "A wise person is that who learns from the experience of other people." So I think it's a lot of wisdom behind it, where you learn from the experience of other people and you implement it in your life. So that's my goal, and is to make waves and connect to a lot of people and connect to people in rural areas, in villages, in places where they don't have the ability to dream big, and approach them through my work and give them hope and a sense of belonging and a sense of um, ability to be able to attain their future goals. Because if I can, they can do it too. So yeah,
There you go. Well, folks, his links will, of course, all be in the podcast description as always. And if you want to know where to find me, well, you should freaking know by now. It's been years. Come on. But if you don't know, check the outro. It's always there. And for everybody watching, it's on the bottom of the screen. Just go check it out. But I want to thank Ramiz for coming on because it's been an amazing hour. I learned a lot, and you made me question some things I might have to do some research into. So
yeah.
I
I hope
definitely
I could explain
appreciate
it
you.
properly and I didn't blabber on, because it's a very tough situation. It's not a
Hey,
normal interview because it's a very complex theory and situation. It's hard to explain it.
dude, it's the paranormal. Everything in the paranormal is just hypothesizing.
But
That's
I
all
want
it
to break
is.
the taboo cliche thing where what movies show it to be like. What movies show it to be like, it's not like that. It's a bit scary when it comes to like them jumping on your bed and doing movements around you. But overall, they could be scary and they choose to be scary. They just choose to be dark, and dark with the eyes still there. But their representation of scary is just dark being and showing its eyes and being hairy or just being full of darkness, you know. But yeah, they could be scary if they want to be, but then they're not always scary. They can be very normal and friendly and very funny as well in sense of comedy when it comes to their personality. So yeah, it's just a heads up, you know. But yeah, it's
Well,
best not to be scared.
well, that's a good warning, and gonna leave it at that for tonight. I believe everybody. Have a good night, and I will see you all tomorrow for another interview. I believe.
Thank
So
you.
have
Thank you,
have
Jeremy.
a good one, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Ramesh.